All right, today we are diving into a world that's pretty hidden from most of us. Book censorship inside the US prison system. We're going to look at what gets banned, why it gets banned, and what the whole thing tells us about the power of ideas.
So, let's kick things off with some of the most surprising bans, because honestly, when you see what actually gets flagged, you realize just how strange this all can be. So, let me just ask you a question. What could a world atlas, Stephen King's horror classic It, a cookbook about ramen, and an issue of Vogue magazine possibly have in common? I know, it sounds like the beginning of a really weird joke.
Well, the official reasoning is where it gets truly bizarre. The Collins World Atlas, that's labeled a security threat. I guess the fear is it could be used for escape plots. Stephen King's It is banned for violence and gore, which, okay, maybe that makes a little sense. But the prison ramen cookbook, also a security threat. And Vogue, banned because it had a perfume sample inside.
And there it is. The punchline is that every single one of those items has been banned in at least one US prison. We're not talking about just one or two odd rules here. This is a huge, kind of unpredictable system of censorship.
But this isn't just about random books getting caught in the net. Sometimes, the censors focus really intensely on specific authors, and believe it or not, there's one writer who stands out way above the rest.
Robert Greene. According to his own Wikipedia page, he holds a pretty unique and, let's say, controversial title: the most banned author in American prisons.
And in the specific prison system data that we're looking at, 7 of his books are on the ban list. Not 1 or 2, 7. We're talking The 48 Laws of Power, Mastery, The Art of Seduction. The list just keeps going.
So you have to ask, why the total ban on his work? Well, the official reason that pops up again and again for every single one of his books is just one word: manipulation. Basically, prison authorities seem to think his books are literal how-to guides for deceit and control.
To really get that, you've got to look at his most famous book, The 48 Laws of Power. Is it actually as dangerous as the censors seem to think?
I mean, just listen to some of these laws. Law 15 is crush your enemy totally. Law 20, do not commit to anyone. And Law 33 says to discover each man's thumbscrew, which is a pretty intense way of saying find their weakness. You can kind of see right away why these ideas might make a prison warden a little nervous.
But that raises the real question, right? If the book is so controversial, why do incarcerated people want to read it so much in the first place?
In this quote from a Reddit discussion, it really gets to the heart of the matter. For a lot of inmates, this isn't about learning to be some kind of evil mastermind. It's about figuring out how to survive in a place where they feel completely powerless. The book becomes a tool, a way to understand and maybe navigate the really harsh social dynamics of prison life. So, Robert Greene's story is a fascinating window into this world. But trust me, he is far from the only one caught up in this huge censorship dragnet.
And here, this is just a little glimpse of the raw data, the official publication ruling list. It's a massive spreadsheet with hundreds and hundreds of titles where every single book gets reviewed and judged. The sheer scale of this whole operation is just staggering.
You start to see how these really broad categories are used to ban a huge range of material. The label security threat, for example, can be slapped on anything from a famous activist book like Are Prisons Obsolete to a simple manual on home wiring. And manipulation isn't just for Robert Greene, that's also the reason they give for banning classic psychology books like games people play.
Yeah, the closer you look at all this, the less it seems like a clear, logical system, and the more it just feels like a bunch of subjective and often contradictory calls.
For a perfect example of the inconsistency, take this. 2 novels, same author, John Grisham. A Painted House was banned for explicit violence, but that ruling was actually overturned when appealed. But then, A Time to Kill, which was banned for similar reasons, had its ban upheld. So, 2 similar books, 2 totally different outcomes. It just feels arbitrary.
So all of this, the strange rules, the banned authors, the inconsistencies, it all brings up a much, much bigger question that goes beyond any one book. Why does any of this matter so much? Well, because at its very core, this is a debate about something many people consider to be a fundamental human right: the freedom to read, to learn, and to access information.
And you hear this argument from civil rights advocates all the time, like the folks at Howard University's Thurgood Marshall Civil Rights Center. For them, advancing human rights means making sure that access to books and ideas is protected, even for people behind bars.
Which really leaves us with this one last pretty provocative thought. We all agree that a person's body can be legally confined,
But the question these banned book lists really force us to ask is this: when a person is incarcerated, should their mind be to